Welcome to Virtual Cabaret, where we feature musical theater songs that aren't the standards from Broadway shows that flopped, have been forgotten, or are no longer produced very often. Today, our musical guest is Jackson Maddock. Welcome, Jackson. It's great to have you with us.
It's good to be here.
Great. Well, it's nice to have you back for sure. So Jackson was with us, joined the Little Theater family when he portrayed Charles Beach in the joint Little Theater Renolda production of In Love with the Arrow Collar Man last year. And Jackson, it was such a pleasure working with you on that show. And how was that first experience working with the Little Theater for you?
It was really amazing. I honestly didn't know what to expect. So Lance, the author or the playwright of the show, he reached out to Mark and said he would help him find someone to play the role of Charles Beach in Arrow Collar Man. And I had auditioned with Lance previously for another show of his, Flower of Iowa. So that was honestly like on the back burner of my mind. It was an audition I had like year and a half, if not more, before this came up. And I said, you know what? I really enjoyed the work that I had read for that first show. So send me the script and let me read it. And it was this amazing play about something that I find fascinating, something that's like right under the nose of important history, but for some reason, like no one really knew the story. It didn't reach the canon. Everyone knows about Norman Rockwell, who followed in the steps of J.C. Leyendecker, but you don't know this amazing story and his gay lover. It was just, it was fascinating. I was drawn to it immediately. So I went to Winston-Salem, was there for our quick 2.5 rehearsal period, got to know some really amazing folks involved with Little Theater, including Chris and Mark, and had a really awesome, quick whirlwind of a time.
Yeah, it's a shame that we couldn't have run the show longer, because it was certainly worthy of that. Even with the limited production values available at Renolda House, I think it was, everyone that saw it was very impressed and very was fascinated by the story, exactly what you're saying, Jackson.
Yeah, and another big shout out to the Renolda House. I've never been part of an artistic experience where I got to literally, before the show, if it so behooved me, I could go walk around the gallery right next to the performance space and like be inspired by the original drawings and paintings by Leyendecker of the character I was portraying. It was a really surreal artistic experience.
Yeah, that was very amazing. Yeah. So if you saw that show, you are audience members, then you've already had a chance to appreciate Jackson's considerable acting chops, but no singing in that one, not a musical. And now's your chance to enjoy that vocal prowess that he has.
Right. And Jackson is a graduate of the University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music, which is one of the leading musical theater training programs in the country. Jackson, what got you started on your way to a career in musical theater, or for that matter, theater in general?
So like music for me started out in 4th grade. I started playing the cello and I really got hooked on that and I loved playing. And I had always, like, my family grew up like singing together, but for some reason it just took a while, maybe playing an instrument, for me to really learn how to hold a pitch. And then eventually like I figured it out. And then in the 6th grade, I auditioned for our local children's choir. And that I finally understood something about like having played the cello and then like getting to sing in a choir finally like made music click for me. And shout out to Suzanne Collins, who is the, Linda Collins rather. Susan Collins is the author of The Hunger Games. Linda Collins, she directs the Salina Children's Choir in Salina, Kansas, where I grew up. And she said, you should audition for Summer Stage, which is the summer theater camp for grade school and middle school aged kids in Salina. And that summer, my very first show, we were doing High School Musical, and I played Jock number 2. And believe it or not, at that point, I was still fairly chubby and uncoordinated. So the fact that the Jock number 2 role was my debut role was not lost in irony on my friends and family.
Oh dear.
But I certainly, after that, got the bug. I remember on the last day of rehearsal just crying as this little middle school kid, because I was like, I just like had established myself like being with this group of people artistically for these 4 weeks or whatever, and I couldn't fathom that wouldn't be the case anymore. It was very magical.
Yeah, we all find that. I mean, that's one of the great joys of doing theater, and one of the great sorrows is that you get together, you form this tight knit community, you accomplish a piece of artistic achievement, and then it just everybody packs their bags and off they go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which at least is one thing to be said for community theater, in that you have that connection still within the community.
Right.
And you spent time at your community theater in Salina, didn't you, Jackson?
Yeah, pretty much. That first show was at the Salina Community Theater in the summer before my 6th grade year of school. And then pretty much until I graduated high school, I was either involved with a production through my high school's theater program or through the community theater, pretty much back and forth, or at the same time juggling that schedule with orchestra and choir, and occasionally studying when I found the chance to.
That sounds all too familiar. I don't know. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, there was a lot of lollygagging, I guess you might put it that way. I hung out a lot with my theater and music friends, and we skipped a lot of class, I'll say that, and drank a lot of coffee together. But somehow or another, I managed to graduate from high school. So
I was lucky that I didn't get, that I graduated from college, because my senior year at Carnegie, my favorite professor, design professor, offered me a chance to design the costumes for Lysistrata that they were doing, which, by the way, had I done it, I would have been designing costumes for Judith Light, because she played Lysistrata. But I was in the midst of writing and acting in a musical that was done by the organization on campus that did an original musical every year. And so I had the nerve to sit in his office and say, I don't want to design that show. And I had already done my senior show, so I had my, but anybody else in the program would have been panting to do this. And I told, and he looked at me like, I want to reach out and strangle you. But in his defense, he let me not do it, and he came to see the show and was charmingly complimentary about the show that we did. So it sometimes works out, but
yeah, you turned out all right.
Yeah.
well, yes, I guess I did. So.
Yes.
Well, Jackson, you've chosen to sing Wondering, which is a song from the musical version of The Bridges of Madison County, and which, despite winning the 2014 Tony Award for Jason Robert Brown's beautiful score, it only played 137 performances, and that's including previews, which puts it pretty firmly in our category of Broadway flops.
Mm-hmm. But Jackson, what made you pick this song from the show?
Well, the show and the entire score is something that extremely resonates with me. I saw the original production, I can't remember when, but during its short run. It obviously was during the beginning and the only part of its run. And the friend I was with, who shall remain nameless, fell asleep next to me in the 4th row while I'm like hitting him like, this is Kelly O'Hara living her dreams up there. I could not believe it. And so, yeah, the show has been criticized for like those sort of like lullabies, but to me, there's just these gorgeous sweeping pieces. And I've always found it interesting in the show and in the script, they mention that in his truck, when he pulls up to Francesca's house, he has a guitar sitting in it. He has to like move the guitar as she pulls into it. And as far as I know, like I've never seen a production where Robert like actually plays the guitar. And so in my head, I'm always thinking like, because I am a musician, like how different pieces could work with actor musicians. Mm-hmm. And I think the song Wondering especially works that way because it's his sort of pensive soliloquy. And then later in the song, it goes to her and kind of mirrors it as well. So I think it translates really well to like a solo work and like someone like self-accompanying them. And not to mention, it's just absolutely beautiful. And after singing it and learning it on guitar, actually, Jason Robert Brown does some really cool like music painting through like the structure of the song. There's that main riff that if you're like a music nerd, you know, it goes, it's E minor 7, E minor 7, E minor 7, and then it goes to like a C with like a sus2. And then at the very end of the song, like after he sings his final note, it finally transfers to like the G major chord, which is like the alternate major of minor. So like he goes from this like wondering pensive place to finally like after he sings his final note, it resolves and like goes up to this major mode. And it's, I just think, a beautiful, genius song.
I believe I remember you either saying or writing somewhere that you were practicing for roles that you eventually wanted to play.
I think I posted that on when I shared the video on I think my Instagram. Yeah, I mentioned that because it's for sure high up there on the list of dream roles. Robert is this wandering soul with long hair, which I'm slowly but surely like getting to now, apparently.
You are, yes.
So I really connect with
The
him.
pandemic look, you got it. Yeah.
So you were familiar with the show.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, if you saw the show. I wish that I mean, not living anywhere near New York, I miss so many shows that I eventually come to love by listening to the score. And that is certainly one of them. You know, just as you say, it's just a lush, wonderful, romantic score. I do know people that criticize the show based on the fact that it somewhat glorifies infidelity, but that's the story. I mean, the movie does the same thing, and nobody seemed to have a terrible problem with that. So
Yeah.
I can't believe that was the reason that it wasn't successful.
Right.
Yeah, I can't imagine that's it either. That can't
I suspect that it's much more along the lines of your friend falling asleep, that it isn't a toe tapper in the sense that, you know, the things that have been lately popular on Broadway, even if they haven't always been lighthearted, have been quite active musically. You know, I mean, things like Dear Evan Hansen, you know, is certainly, the music is very strong and in your face.
Yeah.
Well, and Come From Away comes to mind also, things like that.
Yeah.
The contemporary musicals tend to be, in my mind anyway, every song is at a very high pitch, and I don't mean tone or
No, you mean
like
where it lands.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
I mean emotionally and all of that, which can sometimes
This
not
is
always.
one of Chris's pet peeves, everyone, by the way.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Time to breathe. Let it settle.
Right.
Let it
Yeah.
breathe.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, let the whole thing be a story of a piece. Yeah. But
Right.
anyway.
Well, so
So-
if you out there have never heard the score for Bridges of Madison County, or if it's one of your favorites, you're in for a treat. Let's go and move on and hear Wondering by Jason Robert Brown.
Little twinge, a little shock, a little whisper at the bottom of your memory. A sudden breeze, a gentle knock, and then a rustle in the leaves. You hold your breath, you check the lock, you reassure yourself there's nothing at the window. But you're wondering, you're wondering what that was. Nothing's gonna happen. Nothing's gonna happen. You turn a key, you flip a switch, you settle back into the blissful unfamiliar. You close your eyes, but there's an itch, a little hurt your heart retrieves. But you ignore the tiny twitch, pretend the feeling will be gone before the morning. But you're wondering, you're wondering it be fine to share the weather in her eyes, her hair, her footsteps as she climbs the stairs, the shadow in her light? But everything you know is true, and everything you want to do, and everything that makes you you collides against the night. And nothing's black and white. But you're wondering, you're wondering, you're wondering what to do. You're wondering, you're wondering if it's true. Nothing's gonna happen. Nothing has to happen.
We would like to thank Jackson for giving us the chance to enjoy that beautiful song from a show that deserved a much longer run than it had.
And please join us next time, where we will be featuring a lively number from a show which enjoyed only modest success on Broadway in the 1980s, sung by our guest performers Aaron Dirth and Dan Beckman.
Until then, as always, keep your love of musical theater alive, and thank you so much for joining us at Virtual Cabaret.